Namibia is a predominantly arid country in southern Africa. The stark grandeur of its landscapes, its cultural diversity, and the rich wildlife in conservation areas such as Etosha National Park make it a prime tourism destination. However, the reality is that, until recently, wildlife in large parts of the country, and particularly the extensive communal areas, was in severe decline. This is the story of how Namibia's Communal Conservancy Program, which is founded on CBNRM, community-based natural resource management, has succeeded in increasing game numbers and bringing a wide range of benefits to local communities.
Wildlife is one of Namibia's most valuable resources, but in the 70s and 80s it was not seen as such by the people living in the communal areas, simply because they had no way of benefiting from it, except by poaching. The only way that we could see any light at the end of the tunnel would have been to get the local people working with us instead of against us. At a meeting that I had with one of the key headmen in the Northwest, Joshua Kangombe, we were discussing the situation, and he was as concerned as we were about what was happening to the wildlife. We took the issue a bit further, and the community game guard system was started.
Chief Mayuni led by example in introducing CBNRM and supporting the conservation of wildlife. He realized that his own people were involved in poaching, and in 1994, after attending a game auction in the Waterberg, he concluded that it was necessary to establish an anti-poaching unit in his area.
King
Taipopi has also long been involved in conservation efforts. Well before independence, the community asked him to re-establish wildlife in the Ukwaludi area. After independence, the matter was taken up with the government, which gave support to the concept of conservancies. The Nature Conservation Amendment Act was passed in 1996. It provides for the establishment of communal conservancies that are responsible for managing wildlife resources and are entitled to derive consumptive and non-consumptive benefits from them. The conservancies are defined by the members themselves. Traditional authorities must be consulted, and the agreement of neighboring communities must be obtained. To be registered, they must have a constitution, a representative conservancy committee, acceptable benefit distribution and game management plans, clearly defined boundaries, and the ability to manage funds. The conservancies are unfenced, but are internally zoned for a variety of activities. Depending on wildlife numbers, they are given quotas for own use, shoot and sell and sport hunting, and for game capture for translocations.
We have grown the program from a small pilot project in 1998, where there was only 4 conservancies, to 50 conservancies registered to date. So the program has gone from a small pilot project to a major development project of the country. And these conservancies are widely distributed in 9 of the 13 political regions.
At first, conservancies struggled to gain wider acceptance, and both government officials and the conservancy's community game guards were viewed with suspicion.
There was no trust from the community to us, thinking that we are informers of the ministry. And again, on the other side, the ministry were thinking that maybe we will be doing illegal hunting for the community so that they can get meat from us.
Reliable, relevant, and readily available information is key to managing wildlife and countering poaching. Initially, the absence of appropriate information and monitoring systems hampered efforts. This was addressed by the introduction of the event book system.
With the event book, when we started in 1991, you could see that we were facing a problem. Why can't we develop a system that is going to bring one book together? When we compare poaching now and also in the past, there is a great difference. But in the area where there is no conservancy, poaching is still existing.
The number of registered conservancies has risen to 50, with a further 30 in the process of registration. The registered conservancies cover over 118,000 square kilometers, or 14% of the country. Conservancy residents number 220,000 from 12 different ethnic groups. In February 1998, Nainai Conservancy was the first to be registered. It is home to about 2,300 Junkwa San.
Kivit
Kun has been involved in Nainai since the beginning. He recalls the important contributions the Conservancy has made to the community. Looking to the future, he expresses the hope that the youth will continue to cherish their cultural traditions and support the Conservancy. Numbers of antelope and elephants have increased dramatically since local communities have been given a vested interest in them. Along with the sale of thatching grass, tourism and hunting are usually the main revenue streams for conservancies, and these are dependent on healthy wildlife populations.
Here in the Sesfontaine area of Namibia, we're talking about vast 9.5 million acres, plenty of game, beautiful scenery, and the magnitude of the hunt, fair chase, the spirit of the hunt. We think that's the only way to hunt and take trophy big game animals.
The recovery of wildlife is a priority for King Taikopi. Since the registration of Ukwaludi Conservancy in 2004, several game species, including the rare black-faced impala and black rhino, have been reintroduced to the core area. Hunting is a growing source of revenue, and a contract with a professional hunter is in place. Where game is sufficiently abundant, it may be captured for relocation elsewhere.
Every year we conducted a game count together with the local youth. We have to minimize the competition between wildlife and domestic stock. And we decided to capture a 2,000 springbok. In our first capture, the NGO WWF Life buy 1,000 springbok from us and put it back in conservancies in the south.
Black rhino were heavily poached in the past, to the point of being threatened with extinction. Efforts to reintroduce and protect them in the Northwest Conservancies have produced the largest free-roaming population in the world. Similarly, the desert lion population in Kunene region, once almost extinct, dramatically illustrates a remarkable recovery of a large and dangerous predator when communities realize the value of these animals.
In the sort of 70s, 80s, the desert population at that time we thought had been shot out because there was so much conflict between local communities and lions. In the late 90s, when we started working on them, there were very few lions. There was only about 20 or so. But their numbers started increasing dramatically from 2000 onwards because of a number of factors. Probably most importantly was some good rainfall years, an increase in wildlife populations. And then along with that, the formation of communal conservancies and more awareness towards wildlife and benefits to people. So a whole combination of things really led to the increase of the lion population to almost 100 animals today.
The growth in wildlife numbers has also resulted in increased human-wildlife conflict. The Human-Animal Conflict Conservancy Self-Insurance Scheme, HACSIS, aims at reducing the losses of livestock or crops suffered by conservancy members. Johanna Rein knows about human-wildlife conflict through personal experience. She speaks of how the dogs howled when, just days before, hyena killed her nephew's donkey, of nighttime raids by elephants that flattened the banana trees, of burning rags inside old tires and rolling them downhill to scare off the marauders, but to no avail. It's happened before. It'll happen again.
The access program, it started in 2003. If a cow has been killed by a lion or a hyena, IRDNC is going to pay 50%, the Conservancy is going to pay 50%.
The self-insurance scheme is not just aimed at compensating the individual farmer for losses that he has. It's also a mechanism to get better management. Because before a claim can be made, they have to have met conditions that weren't drawn up by IRDNC or the government, but drawn up by their own leaders. You have to have used some method to try and keep elephants out of your fields. If you did not, you cannot claim. Again, it can be monitored by the people on the ground. They know whether they did or not.
Elephants can devastate crops and destroy water points. An innovative method of keeping them at bay is the use of chili bombs. Tabasco chilies are dried and mixed with elephant dung and water. The mixture is then shaped and dried, and the bombs are lit when the elephants are in the vicinity, emitting an acrid smoke that elephants cannot tolerate. Sizable chili fields are cultivated to provide chilies, some of which are exported. Tourism is a major revenue stream for conservancies. Increasingly, they are offering affordable but high-quality camping facilities in magnificent surroundings, with a range of activities on offer. The Caprivi and Kavango regions are blessed with substantial wetlands, which are ideal for lodges and community campsites.
At Mbamba Community Campsite, we offer different activities. People can go for Mukoro trip, traditional dancing, and we also cater food.
Conservancies are divided into zones for differing activities, such as agriculture, livestock grazing, residential resettlement, hunting, and tourism. Prime areas may be designated as exclusive tourism zones for lodges operated as joint ventures between private sector entities and the conservancies. Securing benefits for local communities has not always been straightforward, however, as many lodges were established on the basis of informal agreements made before the conservancies were registered.
When we started, lodges would see as if the conservancy is coming in just to come and take and take and take. But you have to prove to someone that you're really doing your part as well, chasing away their cattle from the lodge and really cooperating with the private investors.
In the Caprivi wetland areas, lodges take full advantage of their watery surroundings. And in Kunene region, they reflect the rolling plains and vast volumes of space. There are several different joint venture arrangements between conservancies and the private sector. Some lodges are privately owned and have formal contracts or informal agreements with conservancies to pay a percentage of turnover and provide employment, training, and other benefits. Ownership of others will transfer to the hosting conservancies in time or will be renegotiated in the future. Some community campsites have entered into joint venture agreements with tourism companies and receive a fixed fee for hosting their permanent tented accommodation. One lodge is wholly owned by the conservancy with a 10-year management contract with a private sector concern.
Ownership is 100% the community's, where we are just on a contract basis. We are partners in a sense that we were working together for a 10-year period, but we don't have any ownership. It belongs totally to the community. We are training people up now to take over the positions, to start managing. So we'll see after the 5-year period how comfortable the community feels about taking over the management, or do they want us just to extend it a little bit longer.
This Damaraland camp, it brings a lot of employment for all our local people in this area. We are 24 staff and each one person from each family, so that everybody in Tora Conservancy gets benefit out of the project. And 10% of what the guests are paying to stay here are going back to the local conservancy. Wilderness safaris are running the management. The land is owned by Tora Conservancy. So after 15 years, it will go over to the local conservancy and we might run our management ourselves.
Although tourist facilities in conservancies in the north-central regions must still be developed, there is substantial potential. In King Nahale Conservancy, there are plans to establish a community campsite. The proposed site has a dam filled by a permanent spring and overlooks the game-rich plains adjoining Etosha National Park. In Ukwaludi Conservancy, a site has been identified in the core area for the building of a lodge, and joint venture negotiations have been initiated. Some resources that in the past were only used locally are now being sold on international markets. Since time immemorial, San people have used devil's claw, amongst other things, as a treatment for arthritis. In conservancies with predominantly San memberships, the sustainable commercial harvesting of devil's claw has become an important source of revenue. Traditionally, Himba women in Kunene region anoint themselves with a mixture of ochre and butter fat that they scent with a sweet-smelling resin of Commiphora wildi. This resin is becoming an important export as it is sought after by leading perfume houses. It is preferable to other scent ingredients because its harvesting is altogether non-invasive and sustainable, and the resource is sufficiently abundant to easily satisfy the estimated annual demand of about 20 tons. Kalahari melon seed is a local resource that is now being cultivated for export, mainly for use in the cosmetics industry. In the case of King Nahale Conservancy, it is currently the most important source of revenue. The seed is collected and sent to one of 2 cooperatives for commercial oil extraction. Marula is a relative of mangoes, cashews and pistachios that has been valued as a food resource in southern Africa for thousands of years. Marula oil, which also has exceptional cosmetic properties, is extracted from the kernels. A primary aim of the Conservancy program is the diversification of livelihood options. Conservancies are in the forefront of the development of the crafts industry, which now provides direct income, particularly for women from the poorest segments of the communities.
The main activity for the Community Resource Monitor was to increase and strengthen the involvement of women in the community-based natural resource management program. The good thing is that women are producing these products and they are benefiting out of their resources. That money they are earning from crafts, they will pay their school fees, they will buy their school uniform, they buy food, maybe pay clinic fees.
In southern Africa, HIV is a cross-cutting issue that must be addressed in all contexts, at all levels.
In our culture, when you talk of HIV and AIDS, previously it was a taboo. We're not allowed to say anything. But we're losing skilled people, we're losing trained people.
The Community Economic Development Project is introducing better farming practices and new crops like cowpeas, groundnuts and Kalahari melon seed. It is also establishing new livelihood options like poultry projects and giving appropriate training.
What we would normally have is facilitators. The facilitators also recruit like what we would call contact farmers. And then when they have registered into the program, we then teach them the different aspects of conservation agriculture.
The 1996 Conservancy legislation did not make allowance for the use of plant resources. However, the Forest Act of 2001 provides communities with the right to establish and sustainably manage community forests and conservancies are increasingly integrating with them to streamline the management of resources and benefits.
The other source of income which we are using is from the community forest, whereby people sell some timbers and some timber acacia trees and molombe, and whereby we are selling to the local people and outside people with different prices.
In addition to accessing forest produce, conservancy members are able to buy seedlings at affordable prices from community forest nurseries. They can supplement their diets with several fruit varieties or sell the produce. Communal conservancies are having far-reaching impacts for local communities in Namibia's rural areas. In addition to monetary benefits, they receive meat distributions amounting to about 360 tons annually. The conservancies also support critical community projects.
People felt that it's not the right time that we should concentrate on individual cash payouts. Said we should bring the funds together and first concentrate on communal projects.
The benefits of extended cooperation are also becoming apparent. Conservancies are forming alliances, such as the Madumu North Complex in Caprivi region, where 4 conservancies now share their resources and capacity and jointly manage their affairs. Cooperation is also extending beyond regional and even international boundaries.
You can see these government links within the transboundary program or within the Southern Africa. It's really working well, and it's government to government, you know, people to people.
Chief Mayuni explains that he is looking forward to CASA becoming a reality. It will require increased cooperation and should bring benefits to the community. He has explained to his headman the importance of creating open corridors to enable the free movement of wildlife across borders.
A transfrontier conservation area from the Kabanga River to the Zambezi River called CASA, now being approved by all 5 presidents, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, Angola and Namibia, will be the biggest transfrontier conservation area in the world. And there's a lot of focus on it, international donors and governments looking at this development. And again, it's occurring in an area where people have very limited resources. It can provide income for communities in marginalized communities. It can increase the area that wildlife can operate, not just in our parks, that wildlife can move across borders and still be safe within conservancy where they are protected and utilized, but conserved. If that transfrontier, the CASA transfrontier conservation area is going to work, it needs structures on the ground to make it work. And here within Namibia, conservancies provide that structure for in each of those conservancy areas. They are the building blocks that CASA will succeed on.
Since 1992, Namibia's CBNRM program has received funding from US aid amounting to some $40 million, and this amount has been matched by funding from the Namibian government and other contributing funders such as WWF, World Bank ICIMA, CEDA Sweden and DFID. While much remains to be done, conservancies are already having profound impacts on Namibian society. They are directly contributing to the attainment of Millennium Development Goals relating to poverty eradication, gender equality, environmental sustainability, and the establishment of partnerships for development. They are key elements of national development plans and Vision 2030 and are now providing structures in rural areas which are essential for the practical implementation of the decentralization policy.
The Conservancy is an important vehicle to realize the objectives which we have set ourselves. That is really the essence of it, the government by the people, for the people.
Conservancies have created full-time employment for almost 1,000 people and part-time employment for 6,000. Direct annual benefits to communities now amount to over 40 million Namibia dollars, a figure that is set to increase as more conservancies are registered and fledgling enterprises mature. And crucially, these benefits are being derived through improved stewardship of wildlife and the environment, rather than at the expense of the community.